All right, and who upgraded here more, the Mets or the Phillies?
Well, you know, I really like what the Phillies did here, Sal. They addressed an enormous need of their own here, and it was all bullpen at this deadline, obviously, and they have been hurt by their bullpen in the last two previous postseasons. The Phillies have been hurt by their bullpen. They added a spectacular defensive center fielder in Harrison Bader, who's actually hitting better than usual this year too. So that's kind of their Cedric Mullins kind of add there. And they also you don't see him on here because he wasn't a trade, but they signed David Robertson, who only cost money, which I thought was a nice move. He had a great year or last year when he pitched, and he hasn't pitched yet this year, so he's getting himself into shape. But I think he can be very, very dangerous. Look, I'm going to give it to the Mets, though, because I like the bullpen arms they got that much. Like, I'm really enthusiastic about that addition to their bullpen. So I'm going to give them an edge here.
Okay, you said Harrison Bader was the Phillies' Cedric Mullins, but here's the thing. Would you have rather had Harrison Bader? Because he is hitting pretty well this year. That's the only thing. I know that, you need two sides to make a deal, and so just because Bader was available doesn't necessarily mean that the Mets had the pieces that the team wanted in exchange for him.
They also know him pretty well, too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if Bader was available and you needed to upgrade center field and you were going to upgrade center field, I kind of would have loved to see the Mets go out and get Harrison Bader.
More than Mullins.
Amongst center fielders this year, Bader is the 10th best offensive center fielder, which is not his sort of forte. The defense is why the Mets had him when they did, and it's his calling card, but he's hitting really, really well this year. Cedric Mullins having a little bit of a down offensive year. Now, listen, that's over the next 2 months, they could flip, and Cedric Mullins has power, has stolen base potential. I'm not mad at the Cedric Mullins move. I just do think what the Phillies and Mets did were both so similar that I was like, now I can quibble a little bit. I can say, well, which of these two center fielders would I would have rather had? And I do think I would have rather had Bader. And I also just think, the Padres already had the best bullpen in baseball. They have the best relief pitching ERA in all of baseball, and they still went out and added to that bullpen. I don't know how they're affording it. I thought the Padres were supposed to be cutting payroll. They're not. They're all in again, as always.
Where are they getting all these prospects to trade, too?
Where do they get these roster spots?
Quantity doesn't always equal quality.
Right.
What I'll say about San Diego, I thought the Mets were very laser-focused in the way they addressed their needs. You don't need to make 10 moves in order to have the best deadline. And I look at the Bader Mullins thing. You're basically picking between a guy who got off to a slow start in Mullins and then much better over the last month or so, projecting that forward, veteran pedigree rest of the season. Bader, we kind of know what Harrison Bader is. Yeah, he's having a nice breakout season offensively. Is that sustainable? I don't think so, personally. I think Mullins is the guy for the stretch run.
I would have preferred Mullins over Bader, and I also will say that the Mets started at a better point than the Phillies because they had a closer. The Phillies didn't. So the Mets added to a bullpen that already had Edwin Diaz. The Phillies had to get their closer. Hey, you take Durant, obviously he's great. Phillies made some good moves. I think the Mets are better.